show you how to image process your pictures. If you've taken a photo in a full light scenario, we have a lot of light in the room. Our classroom is a really good place to do this. You'll have an easier time. And even if you scan your images, you might need to do a little bit of image processing. Here's the first thing I do. I have my rulers open. It's under View, Rulers. And then I click and drag out rulers from the side and top to have guide points to crop to. And if you grab the crop tool, turn on Snap under View, then you can kind of pull in these and they'll snap right to your guides. Now, if you don't have enough room to crop and you want to still straighten out your image, you can do this. Select All, Edit, Transform, Warp. And with the guides on, you can click and drag these corners and edges to straighten out your image. This is the corners have handles, and you can pull them in and out like that. Say this bottom right corner needs to come down a little bit, and you can get it really close this way to being straight. However, this is only necessary if you don't have room to crop. Hit enter to confirm, and then pull in the rest of your image. And that would really only be useful if you're drawing your characters go all the way to the edge of the paper. So you'll use that function for that. Next thing you'll need to do is go to Image, Mode, Grayscale for drawings, because drawings don't need to be in color. And then unlock the layer and do some of the rest of your manipulations from here. Image adjustments, and I work down this list. I start with brightness, contrast, go to levels, and then curves and exposure. For this one, I think the brightness needs to come up just a little bit, and so does the contrast. You don't want to go too much because it'll start to clip, and we don't want to have any clipping. The next thing we want to do is go to Image Adjustments, and we want to crush the darks and midtones. So we do that using levels. Whenever you use levels, you'll have this little island in your histogram, and I bring the lights to the and then I bring these little, this is a light, midtone, and dark. I think of those as like lifeboats. Bring those into the shoreline like that. I'm going to crush the midtones a little bit, and so if you bring these in right to the edge, you'll get a you'll start to crush the darks a little bit and heighten the highlights. Now you can keep going further and do more with adjustments using curves, and curves is a little more complicated because this line represents dark, or so light, middle, and dark, and depending on which direction on this chart you go, you can get an adjustment. You can also click in the middle and lighten or darken the mids and highlights, so on. And I think that looks okay, but instead I'm going to stay with the darker figures and the more shadowy bottom part of the paper, and I'm going to do one last edit. I'm going to go down to the Dodge tool. Click on it. I'm going to select Highlights because I want to lighten the page, and I'm going to select a really low exposure, 10%. And with a really big brush, I'm going to make like 3 passes over this, and you have to do it at a low opacity, and the reason is you won't really see the edge of the brush. And now you can see that I still have fairly dark figures because I crushed the midtones and darks and levels, and I have a higher highlight because I brought those up in levels, but then I also lightened the shadowy part of the paper. That's because I had a fairly strong overhead light, and I just got a little bit of shadow along the bottom. I would do that. Make sure that any paper that you've photographed that's been folded, you kind of flatten it back out so you don't get a lot of light and shadow. But if you do, you can always use this Dodge tool to make the darks lighter. And you can also use the Burn tool to make, that's under the same spot, to make your shadows, midtones, or highlights darker. Remember, always use a very low exposure for this operation. And that's how you clean up your pictures for your website. last thing, go to image size, and make sure that your picture width is 1000 pixels or less. It has to say pixels right here, and your maximum dimension is 1000. That's so you have a low file size and it will load quick on your website. Good luck.